What's going on, guys? So it is that time of the year. Once every few months or so, we get to our ban list discussions. We had our discussion. We talked about a lot of cards, but today it's just me, and here is my prediction. So starting out with our banned cards, we're going to go ahead and ban Jet Synchron. So a few reasons for this. Obviously, the three candidates for the Synchro engine would be Halqifibrax, Auroradon, and Jet Synchron. All three are pretty heavily used. Yes, Jet Synchron, if it's banned, they can still get to a Needle Fiber and summon Deskot 001 and make the Savage and Herald of the Arclight play, and they can do that relatively consistently with not too many cards, so that will still be around. We're getting a Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion reprint, so I do not see any hit coming to Auroradon, and putting it to 2 or 1 would be absolutely pointless. Halqifibrax now. The OCG has had it for a very, very long time, and it is a very powerful card, but they haven't gotten rid of it yet, and we got it relatively not too long ago, and then the virus hit, and everything shut down, and it never really got a chance to be played too much in real life. I don't see Halqifibrax being hit just yet, so that leaves Jet Synchron. It is a big hit to the engine, because things like your tuning and your Jet Synchron, all of a sudden those one card combos are gone, and even with your Deskot 003 you can summon your 2 and go to your Halqifibrax that way, say summon another 001, so obviously that would still work, and like I said, to get to your Boral Savage plus Herald of the Arclight for multiple negates off of one card, and I'm sure there will be other things that we can do, and that Halqifibrax will probably get addressed in a few lists from now, but for now I do not see it being hit. So Jet Synchron is my first banned card, and I think it's a very smart and good hit, because any deck, especially if they don't really need their normal summon, can either go like just plus a whole bunch off the combo and end with a VFD. They can draw 4 or more, I've heard. I think there's like 4 to 6. I know the draw 4 combo and end with Boral Savage, or just ending with like Crystal Wing Boral Savage, drawing a few times, ending with your Arclight, your Savage. Like Jet Synchron just facilitated so much, and I think that it is time that it goes. We saw preemptive hits to like Steam the Cloak and Glow Up Ball before we got our Halqifibrax, and I think it's time that Jet Synchron gets the hammer as well. So now that we hit Jet Synchron, the other big one that everybody's really expecting, Block Dragon. Block Dragon, it makes like Adamantipator, if they're very consistent deck already, but those few times where their hand's not that great, and more importantly, when they get Nibiru'd or when they get hit with multiple hand traps, but they have Block Dragon, all of a sudden they just get 3 more extenders, and they continue and make their combos anyway. Any card like that is just super, super strong. And like I said in the discussion video, if you compare Block Dragon to any one of the Dragon Rulers, Block Dragon is better on its own. Like if you compare Redox to Block Dragon, I'm not saying that it's better than like Dragon Ruler format by any means, but head to head, just one for their attribute compared to Block Dragon. Like I said, Redox being the easiest one, as it's the Earth Dragon Ruler. Head to head, if you had one Redox at 1 or Block Dragon at 1, you can only pick one of them. You're probably going to pick Block Dragon, is what I'm getting at here. I do think that it's time Block Dragon goes away. So that brings us on to our limited cards. Now we got a few more than we had on our ban section, and we really don't have too many hits on this ban list. There is actually only 4 hits. Yeah, 4 hits on our ban list, and then a handful of cards to come off, 8 of them to be precise. So limited cards. Starting out, we're going to go with the monster that we're going to hit, Oviraptor. We talked about it. Again, we talked about almost all these in the discussion video, so I guess I'll stop saying that now. But Oviraptor, Dinos are already a very strong deck. Dinos were one of the better decks before we got Eldritch and before we got Adamantipator. So if we're hitting both of those decks, it only makes sense that, hey, we don't want Dino to just completely run rampant. They just got the Archosaur, which is a very, very good card for them as well. And there's the new fossil cards coming out, which may help push the deck as well. So I really do expect them to hit Oviraptor. Before we get too much further, guys, I know some of these are going to upset you. Some of these are going to be maybe controversial. This is a prediction. This is not necessarily what I would like. I would love to see cards like There Can Be Only One gone, Mystic Mind gone, but I don't think that those things are going to happen. So like I said, this is what I predict Konami to do, not necessarily what I want them to do, because that's just not how the game works. But if you do enjoy this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it so much, and we try to give back, whether it's on the channel or in the Facebook group. So make sure you find the Team Set Pass Facebook group as well for different tournaments, giveaways, prizes. I sneak some combos and deck lists once in a while, stuff like that, and ask for your guys' opinion all the time about the channel. We appreciate all of the feedback. One more hit we're going to do. Obviously we hit the Synchro engine. What's the other engine? Invoked. So it comes down to 2 cards, Alistair and Meltdown. I personally would rather Alistair be hit. I think it's the better hit. Both of them cuts the deck, like the consistency of the deck down, but Alistair kind of removes the top off the deck too, as if it gets like DD Crowed or Called by the Grave, it can hurt a lot more than putting the Meltdown to 1. And in that case, they still do have the Link monster, which becomes Alistair anyway. So I just feel personally that Alistair is the better hit. But this is Konami we're talking about, and Meltdown will be going to 1 on this list. You can book that now. It's a consistency hit. Meltdown is a very powerful field spell, and it's a good hit in my opinion. I just think Alistair would be the better hit. But we have Meltdown going to 1 on our prediction. Now let's get some cards off the ban list. We're going to start out with a twofer right here, Double Iris and Astrograph. They lost Electromite. That's a huge reason why Astrograph was hit already, and I don't think Double Iris would do too much being at 1 anyway. Pendulums could use a little bit of help. They're still a very good deck. They still can do make really big boards, but they can get stopped. They don't have a great recovery. They don't have great recursion. I feel like they could just use a little bit of help. So starting to bring back some cards would be good for the deck in general. And I think bringing Double Iris and Astrograph back to 1 would be more than okay. I feel like they could have did that as soon as Electromite was banned. And then our last limited card. I will always predict this to happen until it does. So Konami, make this happen. Lightning Storm made you a lot of money already. Lightning Storm will still sell sets in the future. Give us Harpy's Feather Duster back to 1. Like I said, I'm always going to say this is going to happen until it does. Lightning Storm, let's be honest, if Harpy's Feather's at 1 and they reprint Lightning Storm in Battles of Legend or in the Megatons, you're still going to chase after it. You're still going to play 2 or 3 copies along with your 1 Feather Duster. So let's not act like bringing Feather Duster to 1 won't still make Lightning Storm sell sets, because it will. Semi-limited, we have 3 cards coming back for our semi. First off, Unicorn, Necroz. I feel like they could use it, especially with Eldritch being one of the better decks. They don't necessarily even need the extra deck, so I feel like right now is a really good time to bring Unicorn back and ease us into that, since one of the better decks doesn't need the extra deck. Kind of just nerf, but not nerf, because most decks do still use it. But Unicorn back to 1, I think, or sorry, back from 1 to 2 would be healthy for Necroz and help them out a ton. I've seen a handful of ban list prediction videos, and none of them I saw pick this card to come back to 2. However, I've seen Graph coming back to 2 on a few, but I think Seer comes back. So I say that just because I feel like out of the 2, Graph's a little bit better, and neither one of them would be absurdly broken, and I think either one could easily come back to 2, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Seer for my semi-limited Burning Abyss card to come back. Finally, semi. This card should not have been hit in the first place. The deck has not done much in a very long time, and it kind of defeats the whole purpose putting this card to 1. If you haven't thought of it already, it's ABC Dragon Buster. You can't really take it out unless you have a way to recur it back from your graveyard to the extra deck to summon it again. The deck hasn't done a whole lot. The deck's not overpowered. I think they were just afraid of Master Rule 5 and not needing links and being able to spit out multiple ABCs. 2 ABCs, okay, 2 targeting banishes, yeah, that's really good, but it also requires 2 discards. I mean, there are stuff like Dangers where you can plus further off of your discards, but I don't think ABC being at 2 would be bad whatsoever. I don't think ABC would be a tier 1 deck. I don't think they'd be a tier 2 deck. I think they'd be a solid rogue deck, and they could, well, they just need it. They really could use the help and that support, and it is not going to break them. They will just be a good, solid rogue deck that you may see at a regional. Unlimiteds now, we got a couple. If you watch the discussion video, you know I've been saying this for a while, and I actually predicted it last Banlist. Cybersign. No one's going to play it at 3. No one's playing it at 1. Nobody cares about this card anymore. It's too slow. Maybe someone will find some crazy deck that can FTK or something off of it. There's a lot of really great minds out there, but I don't see this card being a problem. I really don't see it taking off. I think any degenerate deck that spits out like an FTK around this card is going to have so many counters already in the meta that we shouldn't really have to worry about it. And I just don't see Cyberstein being a problem at 3. I didn't really consider this card too much until like watching a bunch of other ban lists, but it made sense because I didn't really consider it because I kind of just forgot about it. And to me, that means if I already forgot about it, why not give it back? Diagrams at 1, you know, they have other hits. I think Dynamite might come back to 3. I would personally rather it not, because there's still stuff like Monarch's Erupt, there can be only one, and other stuff, and I'm not a fan of True Draco by any means, and there is some synergy there with like Eldritch, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that variant get a little more experimentation. Not saying it's going to take off, but I could see people messing around with it a little bit more if the Synchro and Invoked Engines are hit and Dynamite came back to 3. I would love to see it stay, but I do think it's going to come back to 3, and I don't think it's going to ruin the format or be too overly powered. I'm just not a big fan of the deck personally. So now you may notice there's a few extra spots, one in the banned, one in the limited, and one in the semi-limited. Each time I do a ban list prediction, I do a don't be surprised if segment where I kind of pick 3 cards and say don't be surprised if this happens. And I've actually done pretty good on it. I called Multi-Faker going to 1 that ban list when really no one did. It was just kind of overdoing, like, preemptively. It's not something that needed to happen, I don't think, but like I said, I try to do this don't be surprised if section, and my proudest one was probably Galaxy Tomahawk being banned. That's a while ago now. I believe it was fall of 2018, but because I actually played Dark Magician at the time on the side as well, and in the group I just asked, I was like, so guys, what are we going to do if Tomahawk gets banned? And everybody jumped on me because Tomahawk won't get banned. Nobody plays it. Only we play it. It's not broken. It's not bad. And then the ban list dropped and Tomahawk was banned. So like I said, I'm pretty sure I've gotten at least one of these 3 right every time I've done this. So a 33% batting average, I'll take it. So this time we have our banned don't be surprised if. I know they're new cards and I know Konami's going to want to sell them, but I don't want another Rongo Bongo similar format. Don't be surprised if Utopic Zexal goes to 0 and gets just ban it. I would be very happy to see this with the new number cards and being able to put out Utopic Zexal with 4 material just really easily. It does have counters, like you can, when they're probably going to activate it in like the standby phase to try and I mean, even if they wait till you have a monster and then use it, you can still, you know, Gamma, you can still, well, I guess Gamma's not necessarily the best example because if you summon a monster, then you wouldn't be able to Gamma. But if you use a spell or a trap or anything like that, otherwise Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence and Gamma are both very good counters to it. Obviously, you can also Kaiju it, stuff like that. I think you can Kaiju it. I don't have its exact wording pulled up on the moment, but there are counters to it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get touched because they want to sell that product. They want people to play it at least for a little bit. But I don't think it's going to be a fun format if people are just dropping Zexal on everybody and it's a go first or lose format more than it already is. So don't be surprised if Utopic Zexal goes to 0. On to our limited. I did mention the card a little bit before, but I don't expect any hits to it, as most decks that play it only play 1 anyway, and the only decks that play 3 are like the Burn, the Mill, the more pure, as we may say, variant. Mystic Mine. Don't be surprised if Mystic Mine goes to 1. It's at 1 in the OCG. I could see it at 1 here. I agree with it at 1 here. But I don't think it's going to happen. But just don't be surprised if Mystic Mine goes to 1. The card is just very oppressive and super powerful. It is a necessary evil in my opinion. But there's so many ways to get to it. And I feel like if you out it and your opponent just metaverses into another one, or Demise of the Lance into another one after you waste a bunch of resources trying to out it, that's just not fun Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think Mystic Mine at 1 would be very healthy for the game, so don't be surprised if that happens. Our final one here, Pankratops. I feel like Called by the Grave, when it went to 2, Konami realized that, hey, this was not a smart idea, let's bring it back to 3 right away. And I feel like Pankratops getting limited is a similar thing, and I think Konami should definitely bring it back to 2 or 3, either or, but I do think it's a very, very strong card. I don't think it's limit worthy, though. It's not that powerful. It's just a very good card, and for going second, and that's just my opinion on Pankratops. I think it should come back to 2 or 3. You may notice I did not touch the Dragon Buster of the Destruction Sword because that extra deck lock with Union Carrier. Well, 1, it's getting a reprint, so it's not going to get hit yet. But 2, I don't even think it's that hard. I mean, it's hard to get over and it's hard to get past. But we have back row removal, we have kaijus, we have hand traps, we have effect negations. We have so many ways to stop your opponent from getting to this point or to get around it. And I just feel like people need to account for this. The whole mentality of I want to play all my combo extenders and all my pieces and no back row removal because I shouldn't have to play back row removal. Well, when there's back row heavy decks, when there's decks that have problematic back row cards, yeah, you should have to play it. That's Yu-Gi-Oh! You adapt to the format, you build for the format, you play against the format. You don't complain that I shouldn't have to play these types of cards. They're in the game to play them. You know, whether you're playing combo or back row, you need to have strategies against both. Or if you're a mid-range deck, you can't just say, I shouldn't have to play this card and then complain if you do, because, well, then you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this ban list, and hopefully you at least kind of agreed with me. Here's my full-on predictions, and have a good one, guys.